25 minutes before it happened that Building 7 had collapsed. This despite the fact that never in history had a steel structure collapsed as a result of a fire. And yet they reported it before it happened. How did they know? We've seen Jamie McIntyre reverse his own testimony that he gave on September 11th, claiming that those reporting had taken his words out of context. We've seen Glenn Beck utilizing propaganda techniques in an attempt to discredit and ridicule and negate real information.
While our foreign enemies are the obvious ones, the physical threat may be developing domestically as well. And here's how I got there. As I told you last week, Ron Paul raised over $4 million in one day. That's huge news. His supporters raised the cash on November the 5th to commemorate Guy Fawkes. This guy was a British terrorist who tried to overthrow the government by blowing up Parliament and killing everybody in it. Paul's supporters called the donations, and I'm quoting, a money bomb. Now, the vast majority of Paul's supporters take this little metaphor the way it's intended, as a rallying cry to create a dramatic political shift. It's really not the way I would go, tying my movement in with a historical terrorist attack, especially in post 9/11 America. But hey, I'm a libertarian at heart. I get it. You raise money however you want, as long as you're not blowing other people up. But if fringe elements take that disenfranchisement and turn it into violence, we endanger the freedoms we're supposedly all fighting for. David Horowitz is the author of Indoctrination U, The Left's War Against Academic Freedom.
Unfortunately, libertarian websites, which are indistinguishable from the anti-American left these days,
yeah.
LouRockwell.com and others like that. They totally in bed with the Islamo-fascists and a turn against this country.
John, I'm sick of seeing emails about the FEMA camps. I got something from friends that was about Nancy Pelosi, and it was completely bogus. Look, let's just stick to the facts. There's enough truth out there that pisses people off. We don't need all the lies. The basic idea is that FEMA is setting up evil concentration camps to be used. Popular Mechanics. They did an incredible job in the writing of the definitive debunking of the 9/11 conspiracy that everybody knows now is not true because of Popular Mechanics, except Rosie O'Donnell.
But Deke, don't you know Popular Mechanics have debunked all of the 9/11 conspiracy theories? Didn't you know that, Deke? It's been scientifically explained by experts working for a gentleman's periodical magazine. Wow, that's great! I can put my mind to rest now. I was almost convinced by the thousands of pilots, architects, metallurgists, scientists of all kinds with scientific evidence of thermite residue at ground zero and the laws of physics on their side. But now, there's a couple of guys who like fixing cars and played with Meccano when they're young. They've explained the whole thing to me. I can see now that all the other engineers and scientists and the evidence of my very own fucking eyes cannot be believed. Thank God for plausible hocus pocus published in magazines owned and controlled by people who funded the lying evil government. Hooray!
The one guy that can actually set the record straight here is James Meggs. He's the editor-in-chief of that independent group I was talking about, otherwise known as Popular Mechanics. They did an incredible job in the writing of the definitive debunking of the 9/11 conspiracy that everybody knows now is not true because of Popular Mechanics, except Rosie O'Donnell.
Popular Mechanics says of itself that it was ideally equipped to research the evidence about 9/11 because of its more than 100 years of expertise in science and technology. However, just before the magazine began working on 9/11, the president of Hearst Magazines, Kathleen Black, who is married to a former employee of the CIA and the Department of Defense, replaced much of the staff, including the longtime creative director and the editor-in-chief. Moreover, one of the new members of the staff, who described himself as the senior researcher for the magazine's 2005 article about 9/11, on which its 2006 book is based, was Benjamin Chertoff, a cousin of the head of Homeland Security, Michael Chertoff. When Benjamin's mother was asked whether he was related to Michael Chertoff, she said, "Yes, of course, he's his cousin." But the new editor-in-chief at Popular Mechanics, James Meigs, has tried to cast doubt on this connection. He misquotes her statement. Then he speaks of the odd coincidence that the two men have the same last name. And he allows only that it's possible that Ben and Michael are distantly related. This is one of the unintentionally hilarious moments in this book. Although Meigs claims that he and his crack staff were able in just a few months to discover the truth about why the hijacked airliners were not intercepted, why the 3 buildings came down, and what happened at the Pentagon, and what happened to Flight 93. They could not discover whether a member of their own staff was related to the head of Homeland Security.
Everybody knows now is not true because of Popular Mechanics, except Rosie O'Donnell. James is here now to do the same with the FEMA camps. Okay, let's just start with the easy stuff here. And just want to collapse this as quickly as possible. There are things that, yes, FEMA has a right to have camps and they could do things to help people. And if you wanted to go down the crazy road of, but they could be turned into, they actually could be. But there's like a million other steps that have to happen.
That's correct. And what we did was we looked into these claims. You know, you can't go and visit every one of the 600 sites that some of these conspiracy theorists claim. So we started looking at the ones that are most popular on the internet.
The limits of debate in this country are established before the debate even begins, and everyone else is marginalized. They're made to seem either to be communists or some sort of disloyal person. A kook, there's a word, and now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute. That powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff.
Actually, some aren't so fun. Ever since 9/11, a bunch of theorists, otherwise known as people with active imaginations, no common sense, and a lot of time on their hands, have insisted that explosives inside the World Trade Center brought the towers down, that all the victims in the first plane really didn't die because there were no passengers, and that no plane ever hit the Pentagon.
Ask yourself this question. Does this sound like an introduction for an investigative piece of journalism with an honest desire to get to the truth? Or does this sound more like an ad hominem hit piece with a design to discredit and ridicule the messenger rather than address the issues and the evidence presented?
This segment helps silence the annoying conspiracy freak in your life. There is enough out there. Conspiracy freak in your life. There is enough out there. We don't need to make stuff up. I'm doing a story tonight that I wanted to debunk these FEMA camps. I'm tired of hearing. You know about them? Sure. I'm tired of hearing them. I wanted to debunk them. Well, we've now for several days done research on them. I can't debunk them. In your life, there see, you know, 9/11 victim family, you know, on television or whatever, I'm just like, oh, shut up. I'm so sick of them because they're always complaining. And we did our best. I didn't think I could hate victims faster than the 9/11 victims. These guys, when you see, and you know, it's really sad.